I never imagined my honeymoon would start like this. Bangkok was humming outside our hotel window, thick with heat, tuk-tuks whining through alleys, neon lights flickering like the city couldn't sleep. Neither could we. The air felt alive, humid, charged, like something was about to happen. We were 2 days in, already drunk on mango sticky rice, pad krapao, and cheap Chang beers that tasted better at night. Jet lag blurred the edges of everything. It made her eyes softer, her lips looser, her touch slower. She kept laughing at things that didn't need punchlines. Then we bought weed. Legal now, they said, at least in theory. We found a street stand near Khao San Road where a kid with a nose ring rolled it for us right there on a plastic folding table. It hit fast. Or maybe it was the way she was looking at me, like she wanted to burn the whole night down. Her name is Sophie. Mine's Daniel. We were lying on our bed in a cheap but beautiful boutique hotel, one of those places with soft lighting and hand-carved wood headboards that make everything feel romantic even when it's not. The TV was playing something we weren't watching. We were tangled up in each other, high, talking nonsense. The kind of nonsense that feels like poetry when you're in love and slightly out of your mind. That's when she turned to me. She tucked her hair behind her ear and leaned close, her voice like a secret dripping off her lips. "Can I tell you something without you getting mad?" I laughed, naively, carelessly. "Of course," I said, but I wasn't ready, not for what she said next. She told me she'd seen a man earlier that morning on the BTS SkyTrain, tall, dark-skinned, local, a little older, maybe military, broad shoulders, quiet power. He never even looked at her, she said, but she felt it, something unspoken, something animal. Then she smiled. I imagined him taking me, not asking, just doing it, right here in this hotel room. She said it like she was talking about the weather, like it was just a fantasy, a fleeting thought. But I couldn't laugh this time. I couldn't move. It felt like someone had reached inside me and twisted something sharp. I looked at her, the woman I had just promised forever to, and all I could see was her skin pressed against someone else's, not a lover, a stranger, a faceless silhouette in the steam of our honeymoon. I said something stupid, something like, "Well, that's interesting." But my voice cracked. My smile died halfway through. Inside, I was spiraling. The weed didn't help. It made every thought louder, every image more vivid. I imagined them in this bed, the same pillows, the same sheets. She kissed my shoulder like nothing had happened, curled into me like we were still okay. But I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling while she breathed softly beside me, dreaming, maybe, of him. By morning, I had already booked a flight to Hong Kong. I told her it was work, just a quick 4-day trip, a client who needed FaceTime. She said okay, too easily, like she already knew. But I wasn't going for work. I was going to lose myself, to disappear in another city's rhythm, and maybe to remember what it feels like to be wanted, not imagined, not fantasized, but needed. Hong Kong, a city that exhales ambition and ancient incense in the same breath. It doesn't rest, it doesn't blink, it pulses, fast, unapologetic, alive. The neon signs in Mong Kok don't just glow, they flirt, they tease, like they know what you came here to forget. I told myself I needed distance, that this was just a temporary escape, a way to clear my head, drown in expensive whiskey, and maybe feel something again. But I wasn't fooling anyone, not even myself. I checked into the Mira Hotel in Tsim Sha Tsui. Glass walls, cold sheets. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, it confronts. A rooftop pool that looks out over a city built on second chances and secret deals. But none of that mattered when my phone lit up. It was Sophie. A picture. She was in Bangkok at a rooftop bar in Tanglor, smiling, no makeup, mojito in hand, like nothing had ever happened. Like she wasn't the ghost still haunting my skin. My heart surged, then folded into itself. I stared at the photo until it stopped looking like her, and I turned off my phone. The next morning, I wandered through Central. The city moved around me like a film I wasn't part of. Skyscrapers like steel temples. Men in suits with nowhere to be except everywhere. I passed Lan Kwai Fong, where expats get drunk, pretending they've made it, pretending they belong. I was one of them now, and that's when I saw her. She stepped out of a bookstore on Hollywood Road, a slim volume under one arm, a tiny paper coffee cup in one hand, and a cigarette in the other, like contradictions made flesh. Black leather boots that echoed softly on the pavement, red lips that didn't smile, just knew. Eyes that skimmed the world like it was already written, and boring. She passed me, didn't slow. Then, as if a decision had been made somewhere I couldn't see, she turned. "You look like someone trying to forget something," she said. Her voice was low, intimate, almost amused. I tried to sound cool, but my breath stuttered. "You look like someone who could help." She raised an eyebrow, then smiled, not with her mouth, but with her eyes. Her name was May. Born in Kowloon, studied art in London, lived between the lines, it seemed. She had a presence that felt curated, like everything she said was a carefully selected brushstroke on a much larger canvas. We ended up at a noodle stall tucked behind Graham Street Market. Steam rose between us as the air filled with the scent of ginger and secrets. She asked what I was doing in Hong Kong. I lied. She saw right through it, didn't press, just kept watching me with those eyes like dark glass, unblinking, unapologetic, like she was studying the architecture of my damage. After lunch, she took me to a tea house in Shungwan, one of those places that barely exists anymore. Time didn't move there. It hovered. The windows were fogged. The tea was bitter and earthy, poured in silence. Outside, the world roared. Inside, everything was still. "There's something happening in Macau next weekend," she said, fingers wrapped around her cup like a secret. Her voice was slower now, measured, very exclusive. I didn't ask what. Something in her tone, half challenge, half confession, made my pulse shift gears. She leaned in, almost like she was tasting the air between us. "You'll need to wear a mask," she said. Then she stood. No phone number, no polite goodbye. Just one last breathless whisper, like a spell. "Meet me at the Taipa Ferry Terminal in 2 nights, if you're brave enough." And then she was gone, just like that. I sat there, unsure if I'd dreamed her, unsure if she was real. But one thing I knew for certain, I didn't even know her, but I already knew I was going. I arrived at Taipa Ferry Terminal just before dusk. The South China Sea shimmered like polished glass, hiding tempests beneath. But the real storm was inside me. My hands kept drifting to my pocket, to my phone, half expecting Sophie's name to light up the screen. She didn't call, she wouldn't. I told myself this wasn't betrayal, that it was survival, that when the soul starts suffocating, even poison feels like air. May emerged from the shadows near the taxi stand. She wore black, always black, but tonight the fabric whispered secrets. A silk dress, asymmetrical, draped low off one shoulder like it was tired of behaving. It clung to her waist like memory clings to regret. No smile, no greeting, just a nod, subtle, sovereign. We slid into the back of a dark sedan, no words, just silence, stretched tight like a violin string. The car moved through the Cotai Strip like a phantom. Past the neon fantasy of the Venetian, Studio City, Grand Lisboa. Each one a kingdom of illusion built for men who mistake desire for power. But we didn't stop. We slipped off the tourist map and into the arteries of old Macau, where colonial facades still hold their breath and shadows don't ask questions. Then we arrived. A mansion, if you could call it that, baroque, weathered, candlelit, hiding in plain sight behind Rua da Felicidade, ironically named the Street of Happiness. Inside, the scent hit me before the heat did. Damask rose, aged incense, and something primal, like the musk of memory after it's been touched too many times. A man in crimson silk approached. He held a mask, black, lacquered, heavy, gold horns curled up like secrets waiting to be confessed. "You'll need this," May whispered, her breath brushing the rim of my ear, sending a tremor down the side of my spine. We walked, shoulder to shoulder, through a corridor so narrow it felt like a birth canal into some other world. And then the door opened. The first thing I felt wasn't the heat, it was the sound, wet, hushed, human. 30, maybe more. Men, women, masked, bare, moving like they were underwater or dreaming. Velvet, chains, feathers like ghost fingers gliding over skin. Candle wax, slow dripping from high brass holders, landing with soft hisses on thighs, chests, stomachs. It wasn't a party. It was something far older, a rite, a summoning. A woman lay draped across a velvet chaise, moaning. Two masked figures worshiping between her parted legs, like priests at an altar. Another stood still, blindfolded, her hands tied behind her back with crimson silk. Gloved fingers danced over her ribs, hips, inner thighs, teasing boundaries not of flesh, but of control. No words, only breath, only sound. I froze. My lungs forgot how to work. May leaned close, her lips brushing my cheek like prophecy. "You're not here to watch." And then she disappeared, slipping into the crowd like smoke between hands. That's when I saw her. Not May. Someone else. She stood near the far wall, completely, devastatingly naked. Her skin was luminous, like moonlight filtered through honey. Long, ink-black hair cascaded down her back, covering just enough to let your imagination starve. Her breasts rose and fell with a rhythm too slow for nerves. Her waist, narrow, trembling. Hips, carved like a master sculptor lost in obsession. But her face, it wasn't wanton. It wasn't lust. It was distant. Software 1,000 miles away. She looked like a siren who'd forgotten how to sing, or a goddess who'd lost her divinity in a wager. And she was staring right at me. My pulse spiked, my mouth dried. Because in that moment, I didn't just want to touch her. I wanted to understand her. I wanted to know what wound brought her here, what dream had died inside her, what story she could never tell. She looked untouchable, unclaimed, unbroken. And yet, I saw chains no one else did. Because somewhere beneath the beauty, beneath the slow breaths and vacant gaze, was a prisoner. Not of this room, not of these people, but of something deeper. And I was already captive. Her name was Lian. I never asked. She whispered it like a secret the night she led me down a corridor carved from shadow. A hallway so dark I had to run my fingertips along the walls, half expecting the paint to peel back like old skin. No masks, no guards, just her. We were deep inside the mansion now, past the chanting rooms, the silk-robed gatekeepers, the flickering candles that seemed to burn in reverse. She turned to face me, eyes shining under a single red lantern. "Don't speak," she said, pressing a finger to my lips. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but memory. Then she kissed me, not to tempt, not to possess, but as if she needed to prove she was still human, still flesh, still capable of choosing. It was the kind of kiss that felt like falling in a dream you didn't want to wake from. Her hands were soft, frantic, hungry, like she was trying to remember what real touch felt like before it was taken away again. I didn't stop her. We moved like we'd known each other in another life. Or maybe just both wished we had. And afterward, when the silence returned, she rested her forehead against my chest and whispered into the skin, "Promise me you'll leave before the next gathering." "Why?" I asked. She hesitated. "They think I'm theirs," her voice broke. "They won't let me go." I wanted to tell her I'd take her away, that we'd run, disappear into some quiet corner of the world where no one knew our names. But I didn't even know who they were. And Leon, I didn't know if she was prisoner or priestess. The next evening, the ceremony was colder, sharper. I noticed more eyes on me, not curious, but calculating. The rules felt tighter, the air heavier, and May distant. Like the room around us had shifted, and she'd shifted with it. When I asked her about Leon, May gave me a smile that felt too slow to be real. "Some flowers don't bloom in sunlight," she said, sipping her tea. "You should be careful what you pick." There was something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Pity, jealousy, or maybe warning. Later that night, I saw Leon again. But she wasn't the girl I'd held in the shadows. She was transformed. Draped in red silk stitched with ancient symbols I couldn't read. Gold embroidery along her sleeves. Her face painted white like porcelain, expressionless. She looked like a bride offered to something ancient. And behind her stood a woman who seemed carved from time itself. Sharp cheekbones, eyes like polished obsidian, hair wound in a silver coil so tight it looked like it hurt. Everyone in the room bowed when she entered. Everyone, except Leon. She kept her eyes down, her hands folded, her body still, but her shoulders tensed like she wanted to scream. I leaned towards someone beside me, an older man draped in navy silk. "Who is she?" I asked quietly. His mouth barely moved. "That's her grandmother," he whispered. "One of the originals." My heart sank. Leon wasn't a guest here. She was born into it, blood. But the way she looked at me, just for a second, full of wildfire and grief, told me the truth. She didn't want to be here any more than I did. That night, May came to me. No robes, no performance, just her. Eyes sharp, voice soft. "You weren't supposed to touch her," she said. My chest tightened. She needed to feel something," May interrupted. "And now she has." She paused. "And now, so do you." I didn't sleep that night. I tried calling Sophie, my wife. I hadn't spoken to her in over a week. Her last message was a voice note from Bangkok. She'd said she still loved me, that maybe this space would help us see clearly. I remember her voice cracking as she added, "Don't get lost over there." Too late. I kept returning to Leon in my mind, her skin, her voice. The quiet panic in her eyes when she said they won't let me go. I was falling in love with a ghost trapped in silk. And the only time I could see her was at these rituals. She existed only between masks, and I was beginning to wonder if I ever existed outside of them. A week passed, more ceremonies, more secrets, more May, leading me deeper, speaking less. The deeper I went, the more I realized this wasn't just a cult. It was a lineage, a system of inheritance, and Leon. She wasn't just a participant. She was next in line. That's when the twist came. May stood over me one night, her expression unreadable. "You think I led you here by accident?" "What are you talking about?" "You're not the first man Leon has touched," May said. "You're just the first she chose." My stomach sank. "She didn't lure you," May continued. "I did." I stared at her, my mouth dry. "You loved her before you even met her," she said. And I needed someone to remind her of the outside, of pain, of wanting. "Why?" "Because," May whispered, stepping closer, "only love can break the blood bond." And then her voice changed. Not softer, but older. I met May in Hong Kong, and now here I was, Macau, where nothing is real, and everything costs more than money. I thought I was chasing escape, but I was being recruited. By the time I figured it out, it was too late. The ceremony wasn't a party, it was a test, and I passed it. Not because I was brave, but because I wanted to stay near her. May. The girl who walked out of a bookstore with red lips and a cigarette, who whispered in riddles and kissed like she knew the end of the world. She never told me the truth, not until that last night. We stood at the edge of the Kotai Strip, towers blinking behind us like broken lighthouses. She said, "You were never the target, you were the trigger." I laughed. But then I saw the look in her eyes, grief, regret, and something close to love. She stepped closer, took off her mask. "The ceremony awakened Leon," she whispered. "And now, the grandmother wants you." I said I didn't want any of it. She shook her head slowly. "You already drank the tea. You already slept in the mirror room. You already touched the chosen." Then she kissed me one last time and walked away. That night, they came for me, not with weapons, but with offers, a passport, a black card, a list of names, and a promise. "Forget Sophie. Forget Hong Kong. You belong to us now." I asked what would happen if I said no. The grandmother smiled. "You won't." Now, I live between cities, hotels, ferries, rooftops, watching the world through tinted glass. Sometimes I think of Sophie. Sometimes I think of Leon, but mostly I think of May, and I wonder, was she saving me or was she delivering me? I guess I'll never know. Because once you drink the tea, once you see behind the curtain, there's no going back. The mask doesn't come off. It becomes you.
Thank you for watching Twisted Love Tales. Behind every glance, every kiss, every secret, there's a story waiting to unravel. What you saw today was only one thread in a web of obsession, betrayal, and forbidden desire. And trust me, the next tale will go deeper, darker, and maybe even hit closer to home. Stay tuned. The Twisted Love Stories are just getting started.